I'm so glad you're with us on the Clark Howard Show today, where our mission is to serve you with advice and information that empowers you so you make better financial decisions in your life. In this episode, I need to give you an update on I-bonds. There's new stuff you got to know. And also, extra fees have been a real topic of conversation on the show in recent years. There's a new fee in town making a splash. I'm going to tell you how to avoid it. Okay. Series I savings bonds. What a crazy complicated thing to explain. So I'm going to distill it down to the simplest part. And I'm going to go back in time 2 years ago to tell you that there was such a frenzy buying these I is for inflation, these inflation bonds from the federal government 2 years ago when the interest rate went to 9.6%. When at that point savings accounts were still earning like 2%. The Series I savings bonds were earning 9.6 plus percent. I think it was 9.62 to be precise. And people were buying them in such large numbers, the U.S. Treasury Department computer system crashed. It was like they were trying to buy Taylor Swift tickets or something. The system just went on the blink. Well, now, fast forward a couple of years, twice a year the interest rate you earn on Series I, again for inflation, savings bonds resets. The most recent reset dropped the inflation rate that you're receiving to 2.98%. So right now I can go buy a CD at 4 point something percent, maybe even topping 5%. I can put money in a savings account or a money market account earning more than 5% right now. And people who bought Series I savings bonds 2 years ago, approximately, they were earning 9.6% on those. Today, for the next 6 months, are earning 2.98%. But then somebody who buys a Series I savings bond today is not earning 2.98, they're earning 4.28%. Why are they earning more than you're earning for the same interest earning period? Because when you bought a Series I at the cycle before, I think when they were 7, and then it went to 9, and then it went to maybe 6 or 7, whatever the cycle was every 6 months, you were only receiving what was the then current rate of inflation. You were getting no bonus above the rate of inflation. And that will stay the same for your full 30 years in it. Where somebody who buys today gets the rate of inflation plus every 6 months for the next 30 years, you get 1.30% on an annual basis. So you get the rate of inflation plus 1.3%. So somebody buying a Series I savings bond now gets more than the rate of inflation, a full 1.30%. So that 1.30 stays the same every 6 month cycle for the next 60 cycles, 30 years, and then they get whatever the current inflation rate is. It's calculated by the Federal Reserve or Treasury. Treasury or Federal Reserve? One or the other. Anyway, so they reset the interest rate twice a year, so you'll get that plus the 1.3. So here's where math is something that really can work to your favor. So if you dump Series I savings bonds that you bought within the last 5 years and you bail out, you lose 3 months of interest. Well, you let this cycle run a few months and you bail out, you're going to lose the annual rate of 2.98 or 1.49% interest. You'll lose that from the bond. But then you can turn right around and rebuy the bond, and you'll make up that pretty quickly, because if you're going to hold it for a long term, moving forward, you'll earn 1.3%, which you don't with those bonds, plus the rate of inflation, a much better deal. So if you like having inflation savings bonds, I-bonds, the advantage of owning the new ones versus the old ones is so large that you want to forfeit a 90-day cycle of interest at today's lower inflation earning rate of 2.98%. You want to forfeit that so that you then can rebuy them and earn at the higher rate, because you're getting the additional 1.3%. If I just made your eyes glaze over, we have a wonderful briefing for you at Clark.com trying to make sense of what I just said. How many times over since 1997 have you heard me try to explain Series I savings bonds, and I create more questions than I answer?
Well, I've heard you give a lot of good advice to people, including to me, and I bought at that high rate. So
yeah, back then it was amazing, because we got Series I's back in the late 90s up to like year 2000, I guess, where you earned 3.6% plus the rate of inflation. I still own those, and they're still printing money for me, and I will own them for the full 30 years because they were such a steal of a deal.
all right, we'll go to questions. This one's from Aaron in Oregon. I have roughly $8,000 in a state pension from when I worked at the University of Oregon. Because I no longer work at a job where I'm employed by the state, I cannot continue to make contributions. I currently work at UPS, and I have a 401k, which I have converted to a Roth account from listening to your show, and I contribute 15% of my paycheck.
15%, that's fantastic.
I've heard Clark say it's good to diversify, but should I keep both accounts if I can no longer contribute to the pension? I found out I have the ability to roll the state retirement fund into my UPS 401k. What are the pros and cons of either leaving it as is or rolling it over? Or is there another option I'm not aware of?
Okay, so we got a couple of things here. One, you got to know what are you earning on that money, the $8,000 in the state pension. Since it's just sitting there, is it frozen at $8,000? Is it continuing to earn money? How does it earn? Because you can figure, if you're invested well diversified in the stock type choices or the target retirement fund choice in your Roth 401k, over the years you should out earn inflation by, I'm going back to inflation, 6 or 7 points a year, which is a really good return on your money. Not every year, but good year after year when you average it out. So that's likely going to out-earn the formula that you would be earning on a pension, where you're no longer earning years of service or additional pension benefits from the state. Now, you got a complexity here, though. The money in that pension may well be treated as pre-tax, almost like a traditional 401k, and you'll have to, if you want to convert it once you bring it over to Roth, you'll have to pay tax on it, and then it will grow as Roth, or it could grow as traditional in your 401k. You asked, what's the other option? You could move the money to your own traditional IRA, and as you can afford to, convert it to Roth IRA money over the years. And the sooner you convert, the more tax-free money you'll have in there. You'll have paid the tax on it, on the $8,000, as soon as you can, and then it grows tax-free the rest of the way, and you spend it tax-free.
All right, this is from another Clarkie in Oregon. Linnell says, my daughter got her bachelor's degree with the help of her employer paying part of it. She needs to stay with the company for 2 years. They indicated they had big plans for her once she graduated, but nothing has happened. She now wants to move on to another job utilizing her degree. If she leaves before the 2 years, can the employer come after her for the money?
Yes. Yes. We have talked about this, Linnell, that this is a big way people can get burned, is when an employer pays for training or education. Usually there's a contractual requirement that you remain employed for a period of time. It can either be a sliding scale or it can be the full amount that the employer provided is due and payable back to the employer if you leave before the 2 years is up. So your daughter needs to go back, and hopefully she's got a copy of the original employer agreement. It's a contract that governs the reimbursement of tuition. And then she'll have to judge the value of going somewhere else where she feels more challenged and has more chance for promotion versus the financial obligation she'd take on based on that contract. You know, when I got my master's degree and it was fully paid for by my employer, which was IBM at the time, IBM had no requirement that I stay any period of time. You wouldn't really find that today.
No.
Most places that would provide any subsidy or tuition payment are going to require so much time of service after you complete your degree as part of having funded it. And at that time, it was like a gift from IBM.
Wow. Sandy in Michigan says, "Hi team. First off, shout out to my mom, Cheryl, who introduced me to your podcast. She may not know it, but I thank God for her every day. Don't get me wrong, you guys
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl. You guys are great and all too, but she's my mom. Clark, you mentioned fast-growing careers in a previous podcast. What are your thoughts on cybersecurity, especially with the advancement in AI? I work at one of those amazing government jobs you spoke of so highly. I'll just save my rant for a Clark Stink submission, haha. And I'm looking to further my career. I'm wondering if it'd be wise to get a master's in cybersecurity. My employer offers 50% tuition reimbursement, so that's the only reason I'm entertaining the idea of another 2+ years of college at 39 when I was just forgiven my student loans. Anyway, thanks again for any advice. You were truly amazing at helping me save more and spend less."
Well, Sandy, if you love your career field, don't worry about all the scare lines, can't call them headlines, scare lines about how AI is going to destroy every imaginable job in the economy. We don't know how technology changes the nature of work. We do know, though, that you can go back year after year after year, and advancements in technology and breakthroughs in science and inventions lead to changes in the nature of work and can make skills no longer as valuable as they were before. Cybersecurity is such an important area for national defense and for us as individuals, for companies, local governments, state governments, and this is a big area. And I find it hard to believe that AI is going to displace the need for a brilliant and well-trained mind to be able to participate in defenses of computer systems. So if you love cybersecurity and you can get an employer to pay half the freight and you get that advanced degree, that sounds to me like a good idea. And you said you're 39. So 39 is young in the scheme of the workforce. You'd be done with it at 41. You've got a long runway of career left in front of you. I'd feel great about doing that. And I'm glad that you are all into saving more and spending less. Coming up ahead, there's a way people are trying to get us to spend more with no-show fees at all different kinds of places, and we're going to talk about that. A while back, I talked about how more and more restaurants are now charging cancel fees if you book a reservation and you no-show. And some of them are really, really strict cancellations where you have to cancel so much time in advance. My wife recently was making a reservation somewhere that was a 7-day advance cancel. And I mean, that was crazy. And there was a meaningful fee, a real fee. So obviously she didn't go forward with making the reservation. But now this is spreading. And I saw a Wall Street Journal item that the payment app Square that so many service businesses use now has built into its software the ability, if you use their reservation platform for a service, could be to get your hair done or haircut or go for a massage or you name it, any kind of service business, that in the app itself, the service provider can have a cancellation fee that you're billed up to $500. 500. And what's wild is that businesses of various types are like, hey, works for the airlines, works for the hotels, works for the restaurants, going to work for me. So a lot of businesses that never did this is becoming a thing. One of the things I saw in the Wall Street Journal story was that there was a barber who charges double the cost of his services for a cancellation fee, just to make it really hurt when a customer doesn't show up so that they don't do it again, that it's really a punitive kind of thing to try to change consumer behavior. Now, let's look at it from the perspective of the service provider, somebody who's in business for himself or herself, and they block that time off for you, and you no-show, then they get no revenue for that slot, that block of time that they put in, and they are self-employed, and they live on that revenue. So there's two sides to this. The important thing is that you know, and that you know, just like with Airbnbs, where there will be strict cancellation policies by some, and then there'll be flexible by others, and really friendly cancellations from others, that you got to know that if you are signing up a reservation for something, you need to see, are you now subject to a non-refundable penalty that you pay if you later can't go, even if you cancel way ahead of time? How does it work? Just like with that restaurant, telling my wife 7 days? I mean, my goodness. We're a little too chaotic in our lives to be able to know 7 days in advance. Yeah, we're going to do it, or no, we're not. 24 hours? Yeah, could live with that. 7 days? No. So you got to know when a service provider for any kind of service is charging you a cancellation fee, how it works, and how you actually make sure you're properly canceled. Is it an app? How do you do it? Because if it's a phone call and they later say, oh, no, we never heard from you. I mean, we're charging you this because we didn't hear from you. Remember always, if you call from a cell phone, you got the date and time you called that business to be able to fight back on a fee. And have you seen this yet in your life? Are you seeing more cancel fees?
I do. I see it for sure. And I understand it in a lot of cases, but I agree. Like, you have to make sure you do it properly and that you...
Exercise places, yoga studios.
Oh, yeah.
They routinely, for classes now, charge a fee if you don't come. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because even if you buy like a monthly pass where classes are already prepaid essentially, if you no-show for a class you reserved, you'll still get hit with a penalty fee on top of your monthly because you didn't show up for that class.
My old gym did that since the beginning for like 7 years. So that is pretty common.
So just know that the cancel fees are part of life now. And there, again, is a legitimate reason in a lot of places why they charge it. So you got to be prepared before you make a booking to know if you have an oops in your life, what it's going to cost you, and are you okay with that before you book that reservation?
Speaking of fees, we've had a lot of questions about this particular subject. This is from Dean in Oklahoma. Clark, this is your Eiffel Tower stair climbing supporter in Oklahoma.
Before you go on, we just talked, this was 2012 that I made when I took my 3 children on a trip to Paris and London, that when we got to the Eiffel Tower, it seemed too expensive to me to ride the elevator. So we walked the stairs, and we were talking about it again, and the kids now are no longer upset with me. I made them walk the stairs. My wife is still upset with me that I did that, but she didn't come on the trip, so she wasn't part of making the decision. But you see plenty walking the stairs, and you save all that money, and you get exercise.
That's true. All right. Well, here's the question that you're getting a lot of right now. We would appreciate hearing your thoughts on Vanguard's new fee structure recently communicated to clients via email. We've been Vanguard account holders for over 35 years, but now are strongly considering leaving before the quote-unquote hostage fees, account closure fees, kick in. Are you sticking with them?
I am sticking with Vanguard, and Vanguard's a very inward organization, and they really don't take a lot of outside input. Vanguard's been making changes over the years that I really don't like, where I have no problem when you institute unfriendly changes on new customers. And when a new customer comes in, that this is how it's going to work. What I don't like what Vanguard's been doing is they hand out these edicts from their Politburo, which is kind of like an old communist government where who knows how Vanguard makes these decisions, and then just all of a sudden, like almost like they did it on a whim, bam, it's there. And in this case, with the new junk fees that Vanguard's come up with, I don't like it at all. Their explanation is, I don't like their explanation that they sent out either. And I just think this is not with the spirit that is traditional with Vanguard. Vanguard is owned by its account holders. But the account holders are not being asked for input on this stuff. They're just being handed edicts. And that's not the way this should play. And, you know, I might as well talk to the wall, because I don't care who it is. Nobody at Vanguard listens. They make their own internal decisions, and they just announce them. And it would be great if Vanguard rethought that and engaged with members, customers, whatever you call us, before they implement changes.
For people who don't know, can you explain what these fees are?
Okay, so there are now new exit fees, as Dean referred to them, hostage fees, that if you decide to leave, you now have to pay exit fees from Vanguard. Now that is
it's an exit fee of $100.
$100. So Vanguard customers are very thrifty. Mm-hmm. So you all of a sudden say, okay, well, you can stay with us, but you got to get out in a hurry if you want to leave. But if you don't leave right away, we're now going to do this, and we're going to be just as bad as the bank-based brokerages with their junk fees when you leave.
And so it's July 1st deadline. And also there's a $25 fee for over the phone if a broker calls to do a trade with a Vanguard ETF or mutual fund.
Now, that is not unusual, that if you don't do a trade electronically with a brokerage, it is very common that there's a fee for talking to a human. So that one doesn't really bother me. This exit fee bothers me a lot. Mm-hmm. And again, I should be talking to the wall. In fact, I'll just turn, those of you who watch the YouTube show, I'll just talk to the wall, because this will be just like trying to have a conversation with somebody in the executive team of Vanguard. So this is not how you treat people. You want input from your customers. Remember, your customers own the organization. It is a co-op. Start behaving that way. This is not the way Vanguard should operate.
Okay. Linda in Georgia says, I read your recommendations regarding suppliers and prices related to purchasing a mattress. My question is, with all these generous trial and return policies, what happens to the mattress once it's returned to the supplier? Is it resold to the next customer? When I think of buying a new mattress, I don't want to purchase something labeled as new but previously used by someone else for that 100-day trial and return.
So, under federal law, a mattress has to, if the mattress has been slept on before, it has to say it is a used mattress. It'll have a tag on it. Is that enforced? Not that I know of. And each state has its own rules about whether a used mattress can be sold again. What's happening in the mattress business with these, sleep guarantees where most common would be 90 days, you can return it for a full refund, or they tell you just dispose of it how you wish or whatever. If they come and get it, what happens to it next depends heavily on state law or how they behave at that mattress company. As far as people getting a used mattress, that has never been, I've never seen that anywhere where that's happened, where someone buys a mattress from one of the companies that gives you the right to return for a refund. In fact, I've read a story about how expensive and difficult it is for mattress companies to dispose of them when people return them for a full refund. Having said all that, in some states, a mattress can be recovered and then sold. It has to be labeled as such.
And sanitized. Some states require that.
Sanitized, recovered, all that. And then it can be sold, but labeled as the equivalent of a reconditioned mattress. As for buying a mattress, I am 100% in on mattresses being sold with a full refund guarantee for a period of months, because you don't know till you've really had time on a mattress if it's going to work for you. And so this is a big expense people have, and having the ability for you to return for a refund, I think, should be there.
But Linda, I'm just going to read a quote from your state's Attorney General's website. Although federal law does require any mattress that contains used stuffing to bear a tag or label saying so, Georgia law imposes no requirements for labeling or sanitizing a mattress that has been used before it is resold. This is true whether the seller is an individual, a secondhand store, or a retailer. So let the buyer beware. Just an FYI.
Oh, boy. Caveat emptor.
Yes, okay.
On buying a used mattress where you don't even know it's used, right?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Jason in Arizona says, here's a tip for Clark and all of you fellow Chippewas. Another one.
Versus the Chippewas.
Yep.
See, the Chippewas are my fellow Central Michigan University people. The Chippewas are my fellow cheapskates.
Yep. What's better than something at a lower price? Something free. I haven't heard it mentioned on the show yet, but inside my credit union's app, there's a new feature called Zogo. It's a short quiz and survey feature that asks you questions on investment and money-related topics, and you can earn free money by answering the short quizzes. You earn daily points for logging in and answering the questions. After you get 5,000 points, you can redeem them for $5 gift cards to various stores. In just a few weeks, I've already redeemed about 6 Amazon cards. It takes only about 3 or 4 minutes to claim your maximum points for the day.
Okay, and in the process, they're using behavioral economics. They're offering you a reward that's tangible to learn more about money and investing and finance. Gosh, I'm going to check this thing out. Mm-hmm. Zogo?
Yeah,
is that what you
I
said?
did look it up too, and lots of people are talking about it.
And does it seem on the up and up to you?
It does. It seems like it's on the up.
How about that?
Yep.
Okay. And this is all part of being member of Team Clark, Jason, that you brought this to us for the knowledge of your fellow listener and viewer. Thank you for doing that. And thank you so much for joining us today. Tomorrow, more money-saving advice for your wallet. And what are we all about? At Clark.com, ClarkDeals.com, our podcast, our YouTube show, everything we do, what I do on radio and television, it's all about you taking control of that wallet of yours so you learn ways to save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off. And have a great day.